Alex.
I'm Katie.
I'm Grace.
And I'm Hannah.
Reporting for BBC News School Report from the Erskine School in Edinburgh.
As this year is the Year of Natural Scotland, we decided to find out where everyone's favourite Scottish place is.
What did you think is the most beautiful place in Scotland?
My favourite place in Scotland, and I think it's the most beautiful, is Edinburgh.
My favourite place in Scotland is Loch Meath.
The place that I think is the most beautiful in Scotland is the Isle of Lewis.
So there are lots of places in Scotland which I love, but I suppose my favourite place has to be Inchnadarm, which is where I go with the Carterton project every May.
Edinburgh.
My favourite place in Scotland would have to be the Isle of Mull.
And the reason is that I've chosen to live here because I'm originally from Australia. And what I love about this country, and what I always notice it every time I come back from visiting Australia, is that it's so green.
But I like to walk round this loch, and the reason that my favourite place of the loch is at the far end here, where there's a sandy beach.
I think it's a great city, and I think it has a really good mix of activities and different sort of museums and shops and places you can go to, as well as some amazing parks.
And it has got the most beautiful beaches, long white sandy beaches and beautiful turquoise seas.
It really has some of the most beautiful scenery in the country, I think. It's extremely peaceful, except when there are 70 people from our schools around.
And I think it's more beautiful than other beaches in Scotland because when the weather is lovely and sunny, which it sometimes is, then you could be in Thailand, you could be in Greece. It feels like you're in a tropical island.
And it's so quiet and peaceful, beautiful sandy beaches.
And Edinburgh is the only city in the United Kingdom that has a mountain in its boundaries, which is Arthur's Seat and Salisbury Crags, which is a really good place to go for a walk or a run ride.
During the day it is really beautiful, and it's a very small community as well, with just only 8 people in the hamlet, which is quite remarkable, very different from living in the city.
The fishing went on the boat to Stafford and over to Iona as well, and just had a fantastic time.
But also, when the weather is bad, when it's stormy, you get the most amazing surf. You get big waves crashing over the beaches. And so you've got 2 completely different places changed just by the weather, equally as beautiful.
We were delighted to have the chance to interview Doug Allan, wildlife cameraman, on his views about Scotland's natural beauty and his career.
I'm Grace. And I'm Alex, reporting for the BBC News School Report from the Erskine School in Edinburgh.
This year, 2013, is the Year of Natural Scotland, and today we are delighted to be joined by wildlife cameraman Doug Allan. Doug has worked on many natural history and wildlife documentaries, including Frozen Planet, Ocean Giants. Recently, he has been filming for a new series called Wild Cameraman at Work, which will be shown later this year to celebrate the Year of Natural Scotland. Welcome, Doug, and thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
What has inspired your lifelong passion for nature?
Well, I was born in Dunfermline, just over the River Forth, and I had an uncle, for example, who was very interested in hill walking, things like that. And I myself got into snorkelling from quite an early age, and then took up diving before I left school. And some of the best diving I've ever done has been up the west coast of Scotland. So I guess right from the start I had this interest in the outdoors, and I enjoyed taking on what I thought at the time were the big hills of Scotland. A place I love coming back to. Scotland's got wonderful scenery and it compares with anywhere in the world.
What is your favourite thing about being a wildlife cameraman?
I think the thing I like best about being a wildlife cameraman, I think, is it's just getting out there. It's being given this enormous privilege of going close to wild animals, but then spending an inordinate amount of time in their company. That's the best bit. I mean, I get paid to do stuff that money couldn't buy, in a way. And getting close to, especially big mammals, which are great, because mammals have personalities, just like you and me, and sometimes they're very friendly, sometimes you get out of bed on the wrong side. It's just great to get to know them as characters and individuals.
So working with animals, what has been the most dangerous aspect of your job?
We do end up often in situations that certainly look dangerous, and some of them even are dangerous, but you know, all the wildlife camera people were pretty experienced with the animals and with the environment, and so our experience often means that we can work close to animals that are potentially dangerous, but by reading their behaviour we can actually be quite confident about staying close to them. Having said that, the hairiest thing that ever happened to me was being grabbed by a walrus. Sometimes walrus go hunting seals, and these seals may be sleeping in the water. And when they're sleeping, they just bob up and down like bottles. And I was snorkeling, I was upright in the water taking a picture, and this walrus, completely, no idea it was there, came up from underneath and grabbed me round about the thighs. And I didn't know what it was, all I felt was something really grabbed me. And I looked down and the walrus head was just tucked underneath my arm like this. And I hit it hard, hit it hard, and luckily it let me go and swam away. Because if that walrus had held on and taken me down and killed me the way that it usually kills the seals, then, well, you'd be interviewing someone else.
That was a very exciting experience. Are there ever any boring times in your job?
Well, I like to, there are times when not a lot happens, but really every minute you spend out in the great wild outdoors, you're always picking up something, some little vibe about the environment or some little glimpse of the animal, which when the time comes will really help you to get on its wavelength quicker, so to speak. But I have to admit, there are places that I've been in where it's been pretty tedious. I was filming a snow leopard, or looking for a snow leopard, in Ladakh in India, and I did a 6 week trip, and I did 6 weeks and 7 weeks. In 13 weeks I was in the company of a snow leopard for 1 hour, and it was asleep for 50 minutes of that hour, and that's not a very good hit rate. I was kind of ready to go home by the end of those 2 shoots.
So does patience come easily to you, or is it something you've had to work at?
I can be very patient when animals are concerned. Human beings are a bit harder. I find it hard when I come back from a great wilderness and find so many people in the queue for petrol or post office or something like that. It's hard to remain zen-like in those situations.
So how do you feel your work has contributed to the understanding of the natural world?
Well, I like to think certainly 15, 20 years ago, we could say that a lot of people didn't understand just how the big picture of nature, and I think when we went out and brought these lovely series back, we were showing people how wonderful it was. And to be honest, the hope was that by showing people, they would begin to understand. By beginning to understand, they would begin to show concern for the environment, and it would all be a good thing. I have to say that it's a little bit backfired. I think the problem now is that we show people somewhere that's lovely, and what they want to do is go and see it for themselves. And that means a lot more people, special places.
This new series, Wild Cameramen at Work, brings you back to Scotland. It's a 4-part series featuring your work and the work of 4 other Scottish cameramen. What has been your favourite experience while filming the series?
When I left university, I worked for a year diving for freshwater pearls in Scotland, and one of the best bits about the series was the chance to meet again my old friend Bill Abernethy from all those years ago. Bill was the last full-time professional pearl fisherman in Scotland, and working with him for that year was great fun, and being given the chance to meet Bill again and talk to him about the times that he and I had, that was a really special moment in that series.
Previous series you have worked on, such as Frozen Planet, have been received very well by the public. How do you feel this Scottish series will inspire the public to think about and appreciate the natural beauty right here in Scotland?
Well, I hope it does, because Scotland, for all its size, it's not a big place, but in many respects there's a bigger range of climate and beauty in Scotland than many other places that I've been in. And when things come right in Scotland, when the light is nice, when it's got that full atmosphere, it really is, it's as good as anywhere I've ever been. And what we need is for people to feel connected to Scotland, to feel connected to the natural world in general, because that's one of the big issues, is that people are not realising that they're part of the natural world. And I think that to become attached to Scotland can do nothing but good for everybody that sees it and for people in Scotland.
How do you think we can balance the need for green energy with the desire to preserve Scotland's natural beauty?
That's an interesting question. Scotland has got enormous potential for renewable energy, particularly offshore wind and tidal streams. Petland Firth is one of the best places in the world, for example, for it. I think we might have to accept that there's going to be sometimes some structures on the horizon which maybe weren't there before, but I think we have to accept that, because if we don't, then the changes in the environment that we see from climate change are going to make it look a whole lot worse. Okay.
Thank you very much, Doug, for those fascinating answers and sharing your views with us on Scotland's natural beauty. It's definitely given us some insight into your career, and we have learned a lot about what the future may hold from Scotland. We're really looking forward to watching your new series. Thanks for your time.
Well, my pleasure.